Welcome to FromRome.Info video. My name is Brother Alexis Bagnola, and I am the publisher and editor of FromRome.Info, an electronic journal for news, information, and commentary about Rome, the Vatican, and Italy. And in this video, I'm going to comment on the Father Pavone case. Not directly, since I know really nothing about it, but indirectly to explain to you what is going on. Father Pavone has run head to head with the Ecclesiastic Mafia. Now, the Ecclesiastic Mafia are an anti-Catholic, godless, satanic, sexually perverted group of individuals who exploit the institutions of the church for their own benefit. They don't believe in God, or at least they don't want to serve him. You can compare the Ecclesiastic Mafia to the Catholic Church the way you can compare termites and parasites to a tree. And the Catholic Church having, because of her wonderful work in the salvation of souls and the edification of societies, nations, cultures, families, throughout 2,000 years, has acquired such riches of culture and power that she's under many aspects desired by people who have no interest in God and have every interest in acquiring these things. And you can't see the Ecclesiastic Mafia because they hide under the cover, under the cloak, under the mantle, under the good name and reputation of Holy Mother Church, and the wonderful institutions Christ has given us of the papacy, episcopacy, priesthood, diaconate, religious orders. And they're not only in the priesthood, they're also in religious orders. So first let me explain what is the Ecclesiastic Mafia on an anthropological level. I have a degree in anthropology, University of Florida, 1986, Gainesville. The member of the Ecclesiastic Mafia most likely was recruited in the confessional while he was a young man. Once a priest who was a member of the Mafia found out that this boy is involved in sexual deviancy, he was singled out for favors and promotion. Because birds of a feather flock together, and criminals don't want honest men around them. I remember early on in my vocation discernment, one vocation director said to me, well, what would be your fundamental ethic as a priest? I said, well, I'm very anti-mafia, and I would definitely be dedicated to rooting out any corruption in the church. Afterwards, he said, I don't think you have a vocation. I was yet too young to understand what game he was playing. He was a member of the Ecclesiastic Mafia. If you have any integrity in your faith and your love and your devotion to Jesus Christ and your gratitude for what he's done for you as your Savior and Redeemer, as your God and Creator, as your Lord and your King, how could you even be concerned about someone who is opposed to corruption in the church? And the Ecclesiastic Mafia is in power now in the church and all the institutions because of Vatican II, which is their creation. They collaborated with the CIA, Time Life magazine, MI5, to create a moment in church history which was used as a battering ram against everything we believe, hold, and how we live and do and think. And so much so that after Vatican II, a priest must preach Vatican II, not the gospel. And if you won't preach Vatican II, if you want to keep preaching the gospel, you will be persecuted, driven out. You will not be allowed to become a priest, someone like myself, or you will not be allowed to maintain a priestly ministry that is truly heroic and cutting edge, like Father Pavone. Exact same reason, because the criminals don't want the church to be what it is. The criminals want to be a house of robbery, perversion, rape, murder, satanic worship. Bergoglio worshipping Pachamama on the altar of St. Peter. A lot of Catholics are completely shocked by that. I was not shocked by that. And they're like, why aren't you shocked, brother? I said, don't you know who these people are? I have not been fighting the Ecclesiastic Mafia since I came to Rome to defend Benedict as being Pope. I started fighting them long, long ago at the beginning of my vocation. I'm half Sicilian. I'm very anti-mafia. So once he gets recruited, he goes to seminary. Once he goes to seminary, he spends his time not following the rules, but chit-chatting with all the others to find out which of the boys there have his inclinations. And they look for the people who are racy, not going to follow the rules, going to go behind the things. They absolutely despise anyone who believes the religion and follows the rules. And they have the absolute zeal to have power over others so they can use the religious authority to play games with these people they despise. And some of us were so simple, we didn't know what they were doing or why they were playing these games. And they, like termites, work their way up into the highest positions of power until they can control the whole thing. They had such control in the Diocese of Worcester that if you wanted to become a priest there, Worcester, Massachusetts, United States, you had to speak to 12 priests. And it was one criminal network. And they would call one another saying, what game we're going to play on this guy. One vocation was told that he had to get 3 or 4 degrees. And they strung him along for 20 years. He was such a simple guy, didn't realize they were saying no to him because he believed the religion. Until some layman decided to open an investigation. He dug up so much dirt, I think the Vatican had to dismiss from the priesthood 30 or 40 priests in the Diocese of Worcester, laicized, defrocked, because they were involved in sexual predation of seminarians and young men and girls. And these clergy clergy want empty churches because they don't have time to take care of souls. They're raping girls and boys. That's what they want. They didn't join the church to save souls. They don't want all that work. That's why Vatican II is exactly the religion they want. Oh, the laity should help in the ministry. Of course, because they want the money and the boys and the girls, or the men and the women, the power and the thing. That's what they want. They don't want the salvation of souls. That's why if you have anything correct in your head about the Catholic religion, you just read Vatican II and you know it's wrong. And if you can't say it's wrong, then you were taught to say that because you couldn't become a priest or a religious, or you couldn't get a job, or you'd be afraid you'd be ousted by your friends. Because if you don't have any of that human respect, it's obvious that, you just read Trent and then read Vatican II. Read Vatican I, read Vatican II. It's like, obviously, 2 different ideologies, 2 different religions, 2 different even views of life. And Vatican II reads just like a UN document. I mean, if you just read a UN document from the 60s, you can see the son and so on who wrote it. So, once they get in power, they start a circle, the Ecclesiastic Mafia, and it's to maintain the club. And they're very cautious about people who might blow the whistle on them. I remember once I was discerning a vocation of becoming a priest in the Diocese of Rockford, Illinois, and the vocation director, he's long dismissed, he drove me around the diocese, and as we passed a certain forest, he goes, oh yeah, that's where the gays have sex together. And I said to him, Father, you're supposed to be showing me the diocese. Why are you showing me the gay forest? He says, I thought you'd like to know. I said, I have no desire to know that. And of course, he put me down as not suitable as a seminarian, because he was recruiting those people right in. He was so bold, but he didn't have the finesse of it. How do they find one another in seminary? I'll give you an example. I was at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome. And the only way to get a drink of water is this fountain in the courtyard. And instead of putting the fountain at the height of you so you could drink from it, they put the fountain low, so you have to bend all the way over. Well, what do the seminarians do? They line up behind the guys bending all the way over. And they're not waiting for a drink of water. They're looking at the butt of the guy in front of them. And, well, I'm kind of an old guy. When I went there, I was already in my 50s, I think. And after drinking water, sometimes you have to go to the bathroom. So one day, after taking a drink of water, I had to go directly to the bathroom. Well, this gay behind me who wore the tightest pants, and he was from a diocese in Virginia, had been on a football team. You know, if someone's on the football team, then becomes a seminarian, excuse me, I think it has to do with religion. He followed me to the bathroom, and when I came out of my stall, having done what I had to do, there he was in the opposite stall in a urinal, waiting for me to come out, giving me a look. I made sure never to get a drink of water with him anywhere near me. He was a predator. And I learned later that he was a vicious calumniator of anyone in the North American seminary who criticized him or he didn't like. And he was part of a clique that did that. And he, of course, was the favorite of his bishop. So they're ordaining their lovers so they can build a whole network. So here in the present state of the Catholic Church in many countries, we don't have men of God in the priesthood. We don't even have men who have vocations in the priesthood. And this is true even of the bishops. I would say probably only 1 in 100 has a vocation of God because they were all weeded out. They were all weeded out. The men of God were weeded out. Not saying the Holy Spirit's not giving vocations. He did, but they were kicked out. Or they were blacklisted. You don't hear of them anymore. Or they were canceled long before being canceled was a thing. And who is in control of our dioceses, our religious orders, now the Vatican entirely, is a gay mafia of sexual predators, or they're not all gays, but sexual predators. And so they are not actually in communion with Christ, okay? They are not actually our pastors. They don't have faith. They won't ever. They know how to pretend to have faith, but they don't have faith. And you can see it because the way they act. A man who has faith, who's a priest, he's going to have the highest regard for the things of God. If he starts doing all kinds of crazy things at Mass, and he doesn't believe, he's doing that to find out who in the congregation really believes and drive you out. He wants you to go away. He wants the people who don't believe like him in the church, so then he knows they're more likely to be his victims. Because if you have faith, you have a conscience. And if you have a conscience, you'd blow a whistle on him if he starts fondling someone in the parish. And I have seen priests have sex with their janitor in the aisle of the church. I've seen that. I'm a thrice whistleblower on sexual deviancy among the clergy. And so I'm hated on both sides of the Atlantic since I've done it on both sides of the Atlantic. And this is why the tradies hate me, because their societies are full of these kind of guys. Just because you do the Latin Mass doesn't mean you're not a predator, okay? It's a place you can even act up more. I remember speaking to a priest back in the 90s. He said he was counseling a seminarian who had left the Legionnaires of Christ. And this is before the news came out about the Legionnaires of Christ. And he said that this legionnaire was ex-legionnaire was very disturbed because one day he walked into a room in the seminary and there were like 16 Legionnaires of Christ having an orgy. There was no women in the room. And when he reported it to the rector said, well, boys will be boys. What? No, boys don't do that. Sexual deviants do that. And I found that very shocking. I couldn't even sleep the night after this priest told me that. I was just absolutely terrified at that level of corruption. The corruption's worse than that. Bergoglio made the Bishop of San Diego a cardinal who covered up the ritual satanic sexual abuse by one of his priests of a woman. And he made him a cardinal knowing that. So this is the Ecclesiastic Mafia, and this is why those of us who say Benedict's the Pope, we're a lot wiser than you think, because Benedict is the first Pope to kick out 500 priests. And if he had his way, he probably would have kicked out 5,000, but he got so much opposition that they just wanted to get rid of this guy. Because if Benedict has popes like him that to succeed him, the whole game is going to go down. All the crooks are going to be waxed up, and all the fake priests and clergy are going to be kicked out. And that will be the end of their game. And the club is not going to stand for that. And that's why they push the death vax on you. They want you all dead. They're getting more money from the government to shut the church and tell you to get vaxxed, sometimes even in the parish church, than they get from you in donations. They don't want your faith. They don't want your devotions. They don't want to serve you. They only want to rape your boys and girls. That's all they want. And they can get enough boys and girls, they can buy them on the street nowadays because liberal society is so liberal, you know. But they're getting more money from the government, and the globalists now know that this group you can buy for pennies, because to buy the entire Catholic Church in the United States for $2.5 billion, that's pennies. Okay, that's pennies when the budget is 1.4 trillion. You know, okay. So the globalists are willing to buy. This is the group willing to sell. And if you're following the head of the Ecclesiastical Mafia, which is Bergoglio, just realize what you're in. And if clergy are telling you he's the Pope, grow up. Understand what's going on. Any priest who says Bergoglio is the Pope is either being blackmailed to say it because he has something to hide, or he really doesn't give any damn for religion at all. He could be just an atheist. Or maybe he's Ecclesiastic Mafia. God bless. Ave Maria.